So we're going through 2 Corinthians in the 1599 Geneva Bible and others. And we're on chapter 3. Yesterday he was talking about people who peddle the word, right? People that do it just for profit. It was a problem then. It is a huge problem now, okay? There's statistics, and you can look this up, since 98% of the churches are not speaking the truth anymore. 98%. Okay, that's just in America. You know, yourself, are they peddling the word, right? Is somebody making a big paycheck when there's a member of their own congregation, that can't feed their children, can't pay their bills, can't meet the rent? Okay, that's a problem. That's peddling the word. Okay, so, and that's where we left out. So, and he was saying, I think that you guys don't do that, but there are people that would. So, do we begin to praise ourselves again, or need we, as some others, epistles of recommendation unto you, or letters of recommendation from you? Ye are our epistle, written in our hearts, which is understood and read of all men, in that ye are manifest to be the epistle of Christ. Manifest, yeah, that's that word. That's a whole other problem right there. The apostle frameth his speech wisely, that by little and little he may come from the commendation of the person to the matter itself. Right. In that ye are manifest to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, and written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, and not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. Right. And such trust have we through Christ to God. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything as of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of God. Right? Sufficiency. Right? In that we are fit and meet to make other men partakers of so great a grace. Mm-hmm. Who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament. You like that? New Testament? Okay, that wasn't a word then. 1599, okay? The New Testament. Right? Not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. Not of the law, but of the gospel. He amplifieth his ministry and his fellows, that is to say, the ministry of the gospel, comparing it with the ministry of the law, which he considereth in the person of Moses, by whom the law was given, against whom saith Christ, the author of the gospel. Now this comparison is taken from the very substance of the ministry. The law is, as it were, writing of itself dead and without efficiency, but the gospel, or new covenant, as it is, as it were, the very virtue of God itself, in renewing, justifying, and saving men. The law propoundeth death, accusing all men of of unrighteousness. The gospel offereth, giveth righteousness and life. The governance of the law served for a time to the promise, but the gospel remaineth to the end of the world. Therefore, what is the glory of that in comparison to the majesty of this? Wow, that's a long note, isn't it? Able ministers of the New Testament. Okay? There's still a lot of people who, the Old Testament is Bible. It's God's spoken language. It's good for learning. Okay, but there is a New Testament, a new covenant that they don't teach now. Right? And even back then, all of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the lawyers were trying to pound the old law into them, and saying the new law doesn't mean anything. Okay? Still doing that today. Mm-hmm. Okay, 7. If then the ministration of death written with letters and engraven in stones was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not behold the face of Moses for the glory of his countenance, which glory is gone away, how shall not the ministration of the Spirit be more glorious? Right? Now, when Moses came down off the mountain with the 10 Commandments written in stone, okay, saying that what you should do and should not do, his face was so bright, so shining from being in the presence of the Spirit and the Lord that they could not even look upon it, and he had to cover it. Okay? And it says, how shall not the ministration of the Spirit be more glorious, right? And that shining out face, it eventually went away. So, for the ministry of condemnation was glorious. Much more doth the ministration of the righteousness exceed in glory. To wit, of Christ, which is being imputed to us as our own, we're not only not condemned, but also we are crowned as righteous. Right. For even that which was glorified was not glorified in this point, that is, as touching the exceeding glory. For if that they should be abolished was glorious, much more shall that which remaineth be glorious. Abolished, right? The law, yea, and the 10 Commandments themselves, together with Moses, is abolished, if we consider the ministry of Moses apart by itself. Right? There are new laws, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's it, okay? It covers everything. Okay, 12. Seeing then that we have such trust, we use great boldness of speech. And we are not as Moses, which put a veil upon his face, that the children of Israel should not look unto the end of that which should be abolished. The end of that which should be abolished, right? Into the very bottom of Moses' ministry, right? Therefore their minds are hardened, for until this day remaineth the same covering untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil in Christ is put away. We're talking about the veil, right? But even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is laid over their hearts. Nevertheless, when their heart shall be turned to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Now the Lord is Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. It's a very famous verse right there, right? Right? It's just, Christ is that Spirit which taketh away that covering by working in our hearts, whereunto also the law itself called us, though in vain, because it speaketh to dead men, until the Spirit quickeneth us. Right. Okay, and 18. But we shall behold all as in a mirror of the glory of the Lord with open face, and are changed into the same image from glory to glory, as by the Spirit of the Lord. Right. So the veil, the covering, okay, let's read this over here. Okay. A lot of stuff in there, right? Ministers of the new covenant. Right? Okay. Are we beginning to commend ourselves again, or do we need, as some do, letters of recommendation to you or from you? Mm-hmm. You yourselves are our letter of recommendation, written on our hearts, to be known and read by all. And you show that you are a letter from Christ delivered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Okay, talking about the old covenant written on stone, right? The 10 Commandments versus the new covenant written in our hearts by the Spirit. All right, so you're a walking testimony, right? Such is the confidence that we have through Christ toward God. Not that we are sufficient in ourselves to claim anything as coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God, right? Who has made us sufficient to be ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life, right? Right? The letter, the stones, right? We're saying this, if you do this, it leads to death. It was all about, right, how not to die, basically. Right? Now, if the ministry of death, carved in letters of stone, came with such glory that the Israelites could not gaze at Moses' face because of its glory, right? Remember that, which was being brought to an end, will not the ministry of the Spirit have even more glory? For if there was glory in the ministry of condemnation, the ministry of righteousness must far exceed it in glory. Right? Well put. Indeed, in this case, what once had glory has come to have no glory at all, because of the glory that surpasses it, right? For if what was being brought to an end came with glory, much more will what is permanent have glory, right? Right? It's like you have a coin, you think it's shiny, it's very pretty, and you love it, but then another coin comes along that's really shiny and really pretty. You forget about this coin, right? The shine doesn't mean anything. Best I can do on short notice, right? Since we have such a hope, we are very bold. Not like Moses, who would put a veil over his face so that the Israelites might not gaze at the outcome of what was being brought to an end. But their minds were hardened, for to this day, when they read the Old Covenant, that same veil remains unlifted. Because only through Christ is it taken away. Yet to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their hearts. But when the one turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Right? There's another. Now the Lord is Spirit. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Right? And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. Cool stuff, huh? There you go. Well, that's chapter 3. Good. Or it's chapter 2. 3, yeah, 3. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. It's important to realize the old is gone and the new is here, right? And a lot of churches, a lot of people still stick with the old, right? They don't, the new covenant. Paul kept telling them, there's a new covenant. You need to be a new covenant. You need to, the old, the tablets, the stone have gone away. There's a new covenant. It's not written in stone now. It's written on hearts, right? For everyone to see by your fruits. So, right, try and find somebody who talks about that, right? So there you go. Catch up on the ones you may have missed and give us a like if you think about it. And we'll do it again tomorrow. See ya.